The president seems to be contradicting his own administration on something. This time there is a mix-up between the president and his border chief over what happens to Bahamian refugees who are fleeing the U.S. in the wake of Hurricane Dorian.
Everybody needs totally proper documentation.
This is a humanitarian mission, right, with respect to this. So if your life is in jeopardy, you're in the Bahamas, and you want to get to the United States, you're going to be allowed to come to the United States.
I don't want to allow people that weren't supposed to be in the Bahamas to come into the United States, including some very bad people and some very bad gang members and some very, very bad drug dealers.
Nobody has said that. I've not said that, and I'm not going to say that. What I will say is history has shown us that there are bad people that do take advantage of that. Have we seen any of that right now? No.
Okay, joining me now is Robert Perez. He's the Deputy Commissioner for Customs and Border Protection. And maybe you can help us really just get a sense of kind of the flow that we're seeing from the Bahamas. Has the CBP seen this? Gang members, drugs concerns? Did they brief the president or warn the White House about gang members coming through the Bahamas?
Well, thanks for having me, Brianna. And look, so far we haven't seen any criminal element, but make no mistake about it. Unfortunately, in years past and other times where we've experienced and responded to these types of tragedies, there is a criminal element that'll look to exploit these situations. I really want to also make mention that CBP, Customs and Border Protection, we are and will continue to ask for everybody to adhere to the rules that are in place with respect to traveling to the United States.
Sure, and I want to talk a lot about that, but I'm trying to get a sense of, did CBP brief the president that this is a concern at this point in time?
Look, what we continue to share with everyone is this ongoing concern to make sure that our border security mission, which is a national security mission, is something that we need to be mindful of regardless of circumstances, as tragic as what has happened in the Bahamas is. So we have standards in place with respect to the documentations, the visas that are required to travel, but nevertheless, and most of all the people that have arrived so far in the U.S. from the Bahamas have had proper documentation. The cruise lines, the air carriers, all the people that are helping people relocate, and if they have to leave the Bahamas, know the rules that are in place. And if we need to apply discretion, we have the ability to do so. Unfortunately, there's a criminal element that will exploit these tragedies, and we're just going to make sure that we're very mindful of that and that we continue to do our border security mission while we help those folks who tragically have lived through this disaster.
The Justice Department has just rejected an appeal from former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who is now a CNN contributor. This is all about the recommendation to indict him after it was alleged that he made false statements to investigators. This all took place days before the 2016 presidential election. What is this about?
So it's really about whether or not Andrew McCabe was truthful with the Inspector General, which was investigating leaks, contact that the FBI was having with reporters. And this all stems right before the election. Andrew McCabe spoke to a Wall Street Journal reporter, at the time was a Wall Street Journal reporter, about a story they were writing that Andrew McCabe basically told the FBI agents who were investigating the Clinton Foundation to stand down, stop investigating the Clinton Foundation. Obviously, Andrew McCabe, he says he felt at the time that it was important to make sure that the right information got out there, that there was accurate information, and that he did nothing wrong. And so that contact with this reporter from the Wall Street Journal became the subject of the Inspector General's investigation. And when they confronted him about his contact with the reporter, they say, the Inspector General, quote, that he lacked candor. Essentially, that's their way of saying he wasn't truthful to the Inspector General about those contacts, about his conversations with the reporter. Andrew McCabe says, I was confused about some of the questions, the way they asked the questions, and so they investigated, the Inspector General investigated, and they recommended charges. In the end, they recommended charges to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. And now it appears that that is what's happening. So as a last-ditch effort, McCabe's lawyers, his teams, they went into the Department of Justice, they made an appeal, they said, we do not believe you should charge Andrew McCabe, and here's why. We're now being told the Department of Justice has rejected that last-ditch effort, that last appeal, and now we all expect that he will be charged for making false statements, essentially federal investigators. And the Inspector General is considered federal investigators, so that's what he's going to be charged with, making false statements. At least that's what it appears to be at this point.
In an era when opposition is what gets rewarded, we saw something noteworthy today. A die-hard conservative senator, Ted Cruz, and a Hollywood liberal activist sat together and discussed the idea of limiting access to weapons. Here's our discussion with Alyssa Milano.
I look at my children and I'm terrified. I don't know how to keep my children safe. For many people in this country, your stance has made you almost like this caricature of a villain. And that's why this meeting was so important for me, because I wanted to be able to look at you in the eye and know that you're really a human with a heartbeat.
What did you take away on two levels? First, on a human level, what did you see when you looked at Senator Ted Cruz?
I think that he understands the magnitude of the issue right now, especially in regards to mass shootings in this country and the apparent weapon of choice, which is usually the AR-15 assault rifle, in which these killers kill people. I think he understands. I think when I said to him, I said, no 17-month-old baby should ever have shrapnel in her chest in this country. I think he gets it. Now, to understand it and then to have the courage and the fortitude to do something about it are two very, very different things. So I'm cautiously optimistic that he knows the issue and hopeful, I guess, that he's willing to do something about it. You know, he takes a lot of money from the NRA. We all know this. He has been on the wrong side of this issue. But I do understand how fossilized we are as far as parties. And the most important thing, I think, on this issue is that this is not even a bipartisan issue. This is a nonpartisan issue.
It's a familiar sight in China. Empty pig pens in provinces across the country. Or signs like this, warning to keep clear of herds that are locked down under quarantine. China's pig population, the biggest in the world, is being ravaged by the deadly African swine fever, a virus for which there's no vaccine. It's harmless to humans, but ASF is estimated to have killed millions of pigs in China since the outbreak was first detected in August last year. Social media shows pig carcasses being dumped in the countryside, and video obtained by CNN reveal disturbing scenes of animals being slaughtered, driven into pits and buried. The central government says about 1 million pigs have been culled, but some farmers CNN spoke to says the scale of the epidemic could be bigger because it's not being recognised at local level. Zhang Hexia watched as all her 600 pigs died. Many of her neighbours' pigs suffered the same fate. She says local authorities told her that if her herd had contracted African swine fever, she must keep it quiet. Local officials are afraid to be held accountable, she tells CNN. They threatened us that there would be consequences if we reported it higher up the government. CNN contacted Hebei provincial authorities for comment, but have not received a response. At a press conference in March, the Agriculture Ministry said the epidemic was under control. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, says Beijing is taking the right steps, but it may take years to fully contain the outbreak.
I'm not sure we can say it is under control, because we know how complex the disease is. We have experience in other countries where it took years to get really a hand on these diseases.
A report from a Dutch bank says that China could lose between 150 million and 200 million pigs this year. That's more than a third of its total herd. To put that in context, the US farms a little more than 70 million pigs.
It's not just the farmers who are feeling the pain either. This country is not only the world's biggest producer, it's also by far the world's biggest consumer. And according to the government's own statistics, the prices of pork at wet markets like this here in Beijing could rise as much as 70% by the end of the year.
That would mean record high prices for a staple ingredient for 1.4 billion people, and a potential big inflation problem for the central government. The impact is being felt globally. Pork prices at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange are up 20% in the last 3 months and expected to go higher. The price of bacon has already been rising in some countries. 2019 is the year of the pig in the lunar calendar. It's supposed to be an auspicious year. In the pig industry, it's anything but. Andrew Stevens, CNN, Beijing.